Hello again, everyone. This is Zach Mason with the Basketball Embassy here for another great session at the International Coaches Summit. Today, we get another special treat with Coach Paul Kelleher doing his second session and he's the head coach of the Ireland U18 men's team. But today, he's going to be talking about transitioning both ways. And his first session was fantastic, and I'm excited to listen to this one too, Coach. And thanks so much for joining us.
Yeah, thanks for having me back. It's great. It's nice to chat hoops.
And it's all yours, Coach. You can take it away.
Perfect. Sweet. All right, guys. So last time we spoke about game management. So I guess I wouldn't say it's similar, but we're going to talk about getting up the floor and getting back the floor and how we do it, and maybe versus what other people might do in terms of their systems and the tempo which they play. I guess when doing this, we probably all had players that are quicker going forward and aren't as quick as coming back. So I guess we're kind of trying to balance it both ways to make sure that we kind of get that balance for our players, that we're not jading them and things like that. So I'm going to show a bunch of video throughout it and use quite a bit of slides. So I guess the one thing I spoke with Zach beforehand is when I get the video off of this, it kind of the screen gets a bit smaller, but we'll try and make it as big as we possibly can going each way. So excuse me. So yeah, so we're going to talk about transition both ways, offensively and defensively. We're going to break it into a couple of things, terminology that we use, and we'll speak about sound bites in a while. So offensive terminology and defensive terminology to help us be that way. And then phases of the shot clock, where we want to do certain things, and we might have touched on that in the last presentation. We're going to talk about live ball situations, dead ball situations, offensively and defensively, and what to try and execute based on the shot clock seconds. The actions that we use, and we show a good bit of video on this in terms of the actions, how we flow into our offense based on the T formation, which is what we'll show also. And then we're going to talk about us transitioning on both sides of the floor. It's probably one of the things that our teams have been known for, especially in the senior leagues here, was our sideline breaks and being able to do that on both sides of the floor and the options how we do that. And we'll touch base again, and we'll show some new schemes today that we didn't show the last time. One or two might be the same. So our flow schemes, our dead ball schemes, our deep schemes, and how we do that. And then our defensive stuff. I was debating on whether to put the defense first, but then when we were getting into the T formation, and you'd see some of the clips how our players run out and sprint to spots. Based on our T formation. So I guess showing the T formation first and then how we do that from our defense made a bit more sense. And then we're going to talk about situations on how we end up going from defense to offense and offense to defense continuously, and what sort of situations lead to live ball situations in that area and dead ball situations. So that's what we'll get into. I never really had a definition of transition, but I never really believed that transition was fast break. I think fast break basketball is different to transition, and the reason why I say that is transitioning can depend on the tempo. I mean, even from a dead ball situation, we're still transitioning from the back court to the front court. It's just a different tempo. So I think transitioning is based on movement from one end of the court to the other, offensively and defensively, and then determining the tempo to achieve that goal. So it's not the same as fast breaking, I believe. So we'll talk about that as well. So then we're going to talk about how transitioning happens, and maybe this could have been how or why we transition, or where are the situations we transition from. So I guess we break it into live ball situations and dead ball situations. And how we transition either at speed or in slow tempo. So in other live situations or live ball situations, they can happen anything from steals to loose balls, deflections to loose balls, missed shots from the opposition, and also rebounding those missed shots and then getting them into a situation where we're putting them on their heels. How quick can we get them to turn their heads? As we spoke in the last situation, one of our phrases is see a head, see a shoulder. So how quick can we get them into those situations where they're on their heels, and then our guys get to see their next move on the option based on where the defense shows their shoulder or they see the back of their head. And when we go in offense in live situations, we're talking about primary break situations, and then within the first 8 seconds, if that's not on, then we can break into our flow schemes, and we show some of those in slide 7 and 8. And then in terms of us getting back on defense, transitioning back to defense, you know, in live ball situations, obviously missed layups for us. And I guess you're going to see here, sorry, my apologies. You're going to see here, missed layups lead to transition outlets for us, for the opposition. And whenever you're in missed layup situation or missed, you're very vulnerable, and you can't really control how that's going to happen based on whether it's a long rebound, a short rebound. As you see there, Sammy is out of the picture, so now we're automatically in a 5v4. In this instance, we're back into a zone, but Sammy's scrambling and is out of position, and he actually makes a mistake by coming high, which is not what we do in our zones. And then we're taking an off-balance shot. So again, now you're seeing 2 defenders behind the ball. So now we're in a 4-4. David Dehane's coming into the picture, miscommunication with Sammy, and then all of a sudden we're in a situation. So missed layups are a huge part of being punished in how we transition. So we're trying to be more purposeful in making layups. Long rebounds, like you saw. Obviously, live turnovers. So where they get steals, that's a massive situation on how quick and how much you're able to control getting back on defense. And missed free throws. So obviously, and a missed free throw can go either way. You know, you can't control where it's being missed. So therefore, it's hard to position yourself. So obviously, your transition defensive principles, which we will show in the last slide as well. Dead ball situations. So again, to go on offense, when they turn the ball over, so anything that we try and do in a live ball situation, and back there trying to do in dead ball situations. So dead turnovers, you know, travels or double dribbles and moving screens that create a violation for them, we're now starting in a dead ball situation and being scored on. So when we're scored on, how quick can you get back? So this is just a quick clip real quickly here. So against Monaco, you know, we got scored on. You know, we identified quickly that they were on there. They were slow getting back. And how quick can you punish the opposition if they're in that situation? So they're the sort of things. And then made free throws for us. You know, we want to make free throws or made free throws against us. You know, that's creating a dead ball situation. And then inbounding from the backcourt. You know, so like if we get scored on, how quick again we can do this situation in terms of, you know, we get a slow inbound here. The defense is in a poor situation. They're above the free throw line. Our guard goes into the channel, and now we're getting into a 1-up, and we're getting a quick situation to a post entry, and then we're able to punish it. And in this situation where, again, we got scored on, you'll see in a while when we break down our actions what this means. So we flow through it. We're getting a weak side action, which opens up the post and stuff like that. So how we're flowing into our offense after we're scored on is a huge thing for us as well. And then getting back on defense. So turnovers, violations, and made free throws again. So in a dead ball situation, quick hits, what are we looking to do when we're taking the ball in from a dead ball situation? Your quick hits, your deep schemes, and then what you're doing from an out of bounds if you're in the front court. And then in the back court, you're pressing. So when we score, you know, are we pressing? Are we controlling going back to half court D? Are we in man-to-man, or are we in zone? Sorry there now. So then our terminology, and I guess, you know, I've always coached in terminology, obviously in the flow of a game. You know, if one of our players isn't getting deep enough in the offense, I can tell them get to certain spots. So we name every spot. We name pretty much every action. So we're coaching in sound bites, and that's been a kind of a topic that Doc Rivers spoke about as well in terms of coaching in sound bites. Why do we transition the way that we do? Clear bolting lanes. We'll see in the next slide our positions, but we want clear bolting lanes, which is our sprints, and easier communication, which is huge. When we coach in sound bites, we can communicate a hell of a lot easier to our players because we know exactly get to the hoop position, get your heels outside the lane. Are we doing this? So rather than saying, how is he getting to the rim or whatever, and we don't know because we don't have the terminology behind it, that's my reason behind it. So bolting is our sprints. I've adopted that from Ross McMahon's. Jail is the charge circle. So we call jail, it's very simple. You get punished in jail. So we want to put our forward in jail on their defender. So when the ball goes in there, we're able to punish them a little bit easier. The channel we'll show in a while. So from the front of the rim to the baseline, sideline to sideline, we'll show that in a second. Obviously our see a head, see a shoulder. That's carrying on from previous clinics that we've done. So every time that we're spotting up offensively, we want our offense to see a head, which is the back of a head. Anytime we see the back of a head, we're backdooring. And anytime that we are seeing a shoulder, we hold our space. Long corners, we all know. Deep slot is what we call the elbow. So when we're in transition, our guards are coming down the floor, we're advising them to attack the deep slot, get as deep into the lane to sink the defense, get our kickouts, create long closeouts, in effect, create a domino effect. Hug sidelines in transition, so we're really spacing the floor, and you'll see that in the diagrams in a while. The tunnel is one that we've kind of started utilizing. We use an awful lot of it in academy situation with 10 to 12-year-olds, but in the last while, I started using it with the Irish teams in terms of the tunnel is being through the block and the correct angle and getting to the glass for finishing. Point pipe is rim to rim, but it's the old point guard spot, and you'll see that in a second on the diagram. And our pipeline is rim to rim. Flattening the defense, we've all used that in the past, so that's nothing new there either. From a defensive perspective, the hoop position. So when we're getting back to floor, I'd be always saying, who's got hoop position or who's got jail? Maybe sometimes we get confused, but definitely the hoop position. First player back must guard the hoop, get in their stunting positions, closeouts, and make it difficult for a 2-on-1 situation. Heels outside the lane. So any wing drives into the channel, the help defender must get their heels outside the lane, not their toes, not their half foot, but their entire foot, including their heel, must be outside the lane. And it's small margins that create that mid-range contested shot as opposed to a semi-contested shot at the rim. And then we close out high sides, no middle penetration. So we'll continue to talk about those situations. Here's our diagrams. And when we talk about the T formation, as you can see, in the top one here, the 4 is at the point pipe, 5 is in jail, and 2 and 3 are in the long corners. And for us, the reason why there's 2 1s there is it allows our point guards or whoever's bringing the ball down, sometimes it's our 2, they can get to whatever elbow they want. And we want to try and create space. So some people will try and get, they'll trail their 4 or 5 to the slot here, and then their 1 is here. For me, that predetermines what the 1 is supposed to do. For me also, the 4 and 5 being in that line allows the point guard to have control where he wants to dictate the offense from and go side to side here on this. So I just think there's more options, and also there's more space between the 2 and 4 and the 4 and 3. So I think it's important to to go from there. From that, I've got a magic mouse, so my apologies. It keeps flicking back and forth. So as you can see here, this green area here, that's what we call a channel. And as you can see, it's at the front of the rim to the end line and from sideline to sideline. So that's an important part of our offense is the channel. As you can see here, the point pipe, jail, and then obviously both sides is the deep slot here. And then our wing is free throw line extended outside the 3. And that's important for us there. As you can see here, the 2 arrows, we call that no man's land. And the reason, like some teams in the 4-out situation, they may use those no man's land spots, which they call slots. But for us, because we use the point pipe and all of that, being too close here just creates bad angles. So we will utilize no man's land, but it's more of an attack and get out rather than standing there in no man's land. So that's an important part for us. And as you see here, it's the pipeline. And then obviously the 2 red lines on the side is hugging sidelines. From a defensive perspective, as you see that again, getting the heels outside the lane or hoop position, heels here on this side, Here, we're talking about being on the high side. So the angle of the 1 here is important because that's what we want to try and do, where we get traps in this area, where we bring them back out and we control the defense. And in transition, you see I've got a red X here. In transition, we never want our players coming off that sideline, because if we come off that sideline, we believe we're getting hurt and they're able to get middle here. So, you know, if they come off sideline, it just creates angles. So we always want to try and stay in this area here to force them down the sideline to get them into their heels outside the lane, even in transition. So our shot clock. So when we transition, and the first 8 seconds, we kind of break down into 4 and 4. It's the only part of it that we have. And as you can see, the 8 seconds, we've also split into 8 seconds in a live ball situation where we might get a steal or a turnover or rebound from a missed shot, or a dead ball situation where we may be inbounding from the back court. So there's 2 different scenarios, and I think that's important to recognize as well in your shot clock. Same with 16 and same with 24. So when we're in our first 4 seconds, that's our primary break opportunities, where we're absolutely sprinting and we're really getting to situations we show here. So in our primary break, as you can see, we switch it here, and our guard is getting into the middle of the lane, and that's just where we get into the flat in the corners, and Matt Harper hits the open 3. So again, we're in a situation where, and we're okay with missing open 3s in transition. And as you see here, we're now getting back. We controlled it because it was close to the rim. If that had been a long rebound, we'd have been in big trouble. We get our heels outside the lane, we get it switched, we're in a closeout, and we force a contested 3. And from here, because we're constant and we're really gone, Matt Harper's gone long, Paul Kelly hits him with it over the top, and then we're getting an open uncontested layup because of our consistent pushing of the basketball that we're constantly looking to do. So now what we're looking for is guards to the long corner in our transition after our primary break. So if we don't get a primary break in the first 4 seconds, now we're looking, if the defense is trailing, we're now looking to get into our flow offensive schemes if needs be. So in order for that to happen, our guards must be in the long corner, our forwards must be in jail, which is what we're going to show in the next slide with our clips. And then our forward stops the point pipe. So our first forward down gets in jail, and our second forward down gets into the point pipe. I'll stay with the live for a second. So now we're going from 8 seconds to 16s. So if we're in a live situation and the defense gets back pretty quickly, they're still on their heels a little bit. So we can still now, in that situation, find out which secondary break we're getting into, if we're getting into secondary break or we're staying in our flow offense, put the defense on their heels. How can we keep the defense on their heels? Put the forward in jail, forward to point pipe again. And then at that point, if the defense is really good in terms of live ball transition, now we're getting into our flow, our dominoes, and how can we create our shot selection guidelines? Our shots must be uncontested, you must be in rhythm, and it must be balanced. And if you don't have one of those 3, it's not a good shot for us to take. So as you saw in the previous one where Tiernan Howe in the long corner, he was uncontested, he was in rhythm, and he was on balance. It didn't matter that it was in the first 2 or 3 seconds. His guidelines were uncontested, in rhythm, and on balance. And because of that, he was allowed to shoot that shot. Let's go back to the first 8 seconds in dead ball. Obviously, when you're inbounding from a dead ball situation, the defense is set. So obviously the first criteria is identify the defense. See if we can call a scheme, or are we comfortable staying in our flow? So we don't really want to be calling schemes every time down the floor. But if we need to call it, is it a dead ball quick hit, or is it a deep scheme based on the time and score? Position your role. That goes into 16 seconds. Know your area, player of attack. Create the advantage by separation with actions that we identify that we can be successful in that period of the shot clock. And then if it's a dead ball and we know we're going late into it, can we get into our flow from our schemes, uncontested in rhythm and unbalanced shots, creating a dominoes effect? And that's what we're looking for. All right, so how do we flow into our offense? And these are probably the 6 actions here you're going to see. Why do we use the T formation? How do we get into a flow from our situation, our flow offense from live and dead ball situations? And these are probably our 6 main actions. So why do we do it? And I'm going to show the full thing first twice, and then we get into the actions, and it might make it a little bit easier. So easier to create separation. And we'll just show one quick scheme here on this. So we're transitioning. The defense is ahead of us right now. We're a late trailer into the point pipe. The defense is scrambling. We create a long closeout. We get a Spurs cut and an easy post up. All right. So that's easier to create separation. And in turn, we want to create a dominoes effect. And this is what, with last year's team, this is probably one of my favorite phases of play. So we're coming down in transition. We hit it earlier. The defense is trailing the first guard down the floor. We replace it. We're getting the defense stunting and off balance. We're hitting the channel and we kick it back out for an uncontested three. And that was probably one of my favorite plays or phases of play with this group. And it was in their preparation phase. So how do we get those to happen? And the first thing we do in transition is we want pipe runs. And when we're getting pipe runs, it means that we're trying to get our first forward down the floor ahead of the defense. I've had many a healthy debate with friends on whether you should have a permanent rim runner in terms of your positions, whether it's the first person over the top, and everybody will be different. For me, I believe that if the 2s and 3s know their spots, if the 4s and 5s know their spots, and the 1 knows where they can go, we're eliminating a second of having to make a decision, of having to see. So if our forwards are running on the pipeline, the only thing that trailing forward needs to look for right now in terms of fast breaking is there a forward in front of me? And if there is, I stop in the point pipe. And if there's not, I continue into jail. That's an easy decision to make, and similar with the other forward. And with the guards, it's just flat out get to the long corners. Make those defenders be on their heels and make them scramble so we're getting deep into it. So we'll have a look at pipe runs and you'll see the amount of forwards that we get over the top on this. Here we go. So this one here is our first one against Denmark last year. And again, our forward is first down the floor and our guard was hitting the long corners and we get an easy pipe run. Dave Murray is number 9. He gets over the top and you see Gary find him quite a bit because Dave Murray was as good of anybody that I've seen run the floor. And here you see Dave again and he's flat out sprinting. He saw no forward. He knew that spot was going to be wide open. And here now Justice, so Gary finds Justice over the top. And again, we're always looking to get beyond that defense. This was a couple of seconds, 4 seconds you can see in the shot clock. And David Murray and Gary again hitting each other a little bit on this. And now we're going to see throwbacks. And we're hitting the trailer after we get it over the top. And it's going to be the very same here. David's late, but he knows jail is empty. So number 9 and number 4 finds him. And you've seen this one already again. So once we're ahead of that defense, we've got the defense turning their heads. And we can follow that see a head, see a shoulder. And now we're trailing late and the forward can put the ball on the floor. And we try and really encourage our forwards to be able to dribble and to shoot so we can get defenses scrambling on that. So there are pipe runs. Obviously, that's not going to be available the whole time. So we may not be able to hit the forwards, but we may be able to hit the guards ahead of us hitting in the same corner. One of our guidelines that we don't like to do is actually go cross-court passing. And what we mean by that is on the pipeline, no strong side, weak side passes. Everything we try and do is strong side, strong side. Obviously, there's a time where that's not going to happen, but the majority of the time we're looking for strong side passes. And that allows us to dictate what we're trying to do. So we call this a replay. So anytime that we hit a head and the channel drive isn't available, which is what we see Matt Harper doing in a while, and we hit it back, most people call that a boomerang, but we call a boomerang pass, we call it replays because it's not always the same person that we hit it back to, and you'll see here in a second. So right here, you're going to see actually our 4 bring the ball down the floor, Rapolis Movidas, and he's going to hit the long corner to Matt Harper. You see Matt Harper's getting ahead, and you see Tiernan on the weak side. So we hit a replay. We're uncontested. We got the defense turning their heads, and on the replay, we did an open look. You might have seen us use this one before in previous clinics. So now we're flattening the defense with Killian, and there we go. We get a high-low from the point pipe to jail. This one here, I really like this one. Again, a replay back, and now we're into the corner. And that's David Murray here. And I was just in space of 2 or 3 seconds. And it's going to be the very same here. So right now, they take away the reversal to the point pipe, pass fake, and now our stretch 4 is hitting that long 3. They take away the replay here, and we're getting a backdoor off of this because they assume that we're going to get a replay. They overplayed us, and we get a backdoor. Same on this one. They take it away fully. We get a channel drive. So they took away the replay and we get a channel drive. This is what we call a double replay. So we replay it and then we replay it back again, getting the defense turn their heads, and we get an uncontested long corner. Now our forwards hitting it openly. When the replay is not there, we can now come and we get a ball screen and we can turn the corner off of the replay. So we get an awful lot of joy off of our replays because it's a major action in our offense. So pipe runs, replays, and channel drives. And now we may not be able to get the ball ahead into the long corner. We may not be able to get a pipe run. So now, if the defense is ahead of us and we have a post entry, now we get what we call Spurs cuts. And it's vitally important that we get above the elbow. And if we don't get above the elbow, we're too close to the post player where they can't make a move. So every time that we get a post entry, this is one of our automatics that we call Spurs cuts. So first down here, our guard, he hits Dave Murray, and now we're just, again, we got on the Spurs cut, we got them to turn their heads. Very same here again. That's the same post player that gives the pass. He became very good at it. And now we're here, and as we get the Spurs cut, we're allowing that post move that we just we spoke about. Here to take away the outlet pass, and we get a double Spurs. So again, our players became very good in this. I guess I want to stop this here now because we're going to get an offensive rebound here. And anytime we get an offensive rebound, we identify this as essentially a post entry. So off of this, you're going to see number 2 here, and this is against Norway. You're going to see Ronan Cregan, number 1, get the offensive rebound, and immediately you're going to see Matt Harper, number 2, get the Spurs cut over the top. They take it away, and he gets kick out to Nate Moore out in the long corner for an open 3. So again, he sees the back of the head, means a cut, and there we get the open kick out because of our, I suppose we call them automatics. This is against the zone, so we still use the same action against the zone. Here, not great defense, but we get the Spurs cut off of it, and that's something that we try and. Oh, my mouse gone dead. No. Malfunction on the mouse. My apologies. There we go. Back. All right. So now we're talking about what happens when we're into the flow of our offense, and we want to keep in the flow of it. One of our things that we utilize is weak side staggers, and you can see there's only going to be 2 clips on this. On a weak side stagger, we call our screens boomerangs, purely because every time you come off a screen, we want someone diving into the basket and someone coming back to the ball. So that's kind of our boomerang action a little bit. So it's a bit different to boomerang passing. So you're going to see here stagger screens, and this one is for their senior team, Neptune. So here you're going to see the reversal. You get a blast up in the corner, and the weak side here you see a stagger screen. And what we do is you're going to see the post pop out to the ball side corner, and that just creates space. So when we set stagger screens, we believe that defenders are going to turn their head because they're focused on their offensive player. So as you can see here, turn the head. He's chasing. He's turned his head slightly. He's popped the corner, and all of a sudden there's just a little bit of space down the gut. Poor help defense, and we get there. Here again, it's actually his cousin. So we reverse it here. Now, as you can see, this guy here is helping in. So he's taken away the drive for now. But what happens here is he sees Tiernan come up, he helps in, and just a small gap for us to attack, and we end up getting the 3-point play on that. So weak side staggers are big for us. So now we attack. Post player is not available. Now we attack. We get to the rim, but the post player is still here. Francisco Nani had a tweet during the week, and he called it offensive boxing out. We call this clearing out jail. So essentially it's a box out in jail. You're going to see 3 of them. 2 of them are in transition. We missed the layup on the 3rd one. But because we get the box out or we clear out jail, we're in an offensive rebounding position. And therefore, we're in a position where we can get the put back on that as well. So we get the rebound. We're on the goal. 3-on-3. You're going to see Dave Murray just box him out in the inside, which when Roy Downey beats him, he's got that space to go. Same here. And we get that offensive box out by number 11 on their 14, and that just opens up a drive. So here we have the same situation. We get the box out. We miss the layup. He's in an offensive rebounding position, and now he gets the the rebound, and we get a 3-point play off that. So that clearing out or boxing out offensively is a huge part of our game as well. And the last action is a jail entry. So now we're coming down the floor. The defense are ahead of us. We're not able to clear out jail. We're not able to get a replay. We're not able to get a weak side stagger. We find an early post entry, and now we're into our flow from a Spurs cut. And you see it right here. So it's early in the game. So we a slow rebound. But here, if you look at it, I suppose I just want to show this real quick. So here's our T formation. So our forward is getting down into jail. We're probably a little bit high here by number 4. He should be a bit deeper in the corner. But you see how deep the guard is on the weak side here. You're going to see CJ here now. He's going to attack the deep slot. He's going to put the defender on his heels, and Sanmi is going to trail into the point pipe, hence creating our T formation where we can play out of this a little bit too. Jail entry, hit it, not there. We kick it back out. We replace the 3-point line, which is what we spoke about in the last clinic. Nice little kick out. We're creating a long closeout. Missed layup, but we're there for the offensive rebound. And it was just be all in space of 11 seconds getting down the floor because we followed our guidelines into our flow offense. Excuse me. So here, I'm going to keep this one on this size. So we're going to talk about certain schemes here. So we have our flow schemes, our dead ball schemes, and our deep schemes. And we're going to talk about the first 4 to 6 seconds. So obviously we spoke earlier in terms of 4 seconds, we're trying to get a primary break. In the next 2 seconds, if we don't score in 4, we'll know that we're in our flow scheme up because the defense is trailing. You'll see one contradictory here because it was a specific time and score scenario. We're going to show an old one here from the 2013 team. Again, we're trailing into it. The defense is ahead of us. We're just getting that slip screen. It's quite common now in the NCAA teams that they utilize it. We'll show a difference, a shirt scheme. So that's a dead ball scheme. So when we spoke about dead ball schemes a while ago, we spoke about, do we want quick hits or do we want deep schemes? And that's what we'll talk about here. So our shirt, our splash, our high, and our scissors, which we've probably shown quite a bit before. But as you can see with the quick hits, it's a quick hit. Splash is a quick hit, but it's creating space. You'll see that in the second one of these. And then with your deep schemes, there's multiple actions. There's a deliberate attempt to have multiple actions in what we do in terms of our transition. So our up series. So we'll show all the options that we do off of this. So again, we're coming up. The first option obviously is coming off the zipper stagger, and that's an open 3. The second option is the high-low. So when we come off the stagger zipper, now we're diving, we're getting in here. We end up getting fouled in this one. Here, we're going into a ball screen, so we call this a twist action. And now we're getting a roll and we're replacing behind to free up some space. Here, this one is, you can see the defense playing high. We sucker them into it. So it's a C. And I put this in because most of our schemes, some of our schemes we kind of utilize that we can put them in as a side out of bounds as well. And I think that's important. It just keeps the amount of schemes that you're running down a little bit. So we're just running it again from a side out of bounds. We call that gold. And then we get into our ball screen. And we just get a little bit of an action on that one. So that's a flow scheme where, as you saw, the defense is trailing. We can't really hit the ball ahead. So we're just coming into our flow scheme on that. Next one, this is just a one clip. So again, we're getting to a handoff, the dive, the replace, getting on the weak side, poor help defense in jail, and we end up getting an open look on that one there as well. So again, they're just kind of just a couple of flow schemes that we'll see. Dead ball schemes, we're inbound the ball from the backcourt, shirt, a couple of options off of this one. Again, you've seen this action before a bunch of times. So from a horn scheme, we can go off either side. So this is where we give options. So he's gone to bring the post player into it, and then we're coming back off the handoff, and now we're sealing him deep in jail, and we're getting a deep seal. Here, he gives it to the 5, and we're coming back off the handoff. We take away the penetration, we kick it back out, reversing, getting our weak side stagger, Spurs cut, and now we're freeing up a little bit of space that we can get into it. And here, a little bit cheeky, the defense thinks we're coming back into the screen, and we just get a lob over the top on that. So that was just a little bit cheeky in terms of our quick hits on that one. And then this is a splash scheme. I kind of adopted this from the Warriors because this was one where Clay was coming off first and Steph was coming off at the weak side. Ran it minimally. Probably should have ran a little bit more last year with this group. But you'll see early on here, our point guard gets it. He feeds. And whichever side he goes, he splits the horns. We're getting a weak side pin down. And we get a drive in that. Here, we're getting into a two-man game on this side. Same thing, pin down. We're coming back off and CJ, we find him. Then we're flaring out and we get a post entry again. And we get a nice little look in the hook on that one. So again, they're kind of like quick hits, albeit from dead ball scenarios and how we transition. And these ones then, these are multiple actions. We've seen this one before. So again, you're going to see the first one is a half-court scheme. And you'll see the second one, we're running the very same scheme from a side out of bounds against the same team, actually. So we're getting to a stagger ball screen. Here they stay home. And we get an open three on the weak side. And this one, they take away the weak side and we get an open penetration off the stagger ball screen on this. So again, from a side out of bounds, you run the same scheme. And there we get the underneath because they stayed at home on the weak side. And our last one, and we've seen this, and again, it's against the same team against Ukraine. But here we run it through fully. And you're going to see CJ number 5 makes the pass. We come over the weak side stack on the point pipe. And then we're just getting into a weak side, bringing CJ back into it into pick and roll. And you see how smart CJ is in the next one. He can't make the pass. Ukraine are taking it through. We shallow Paul Kelly through. And now we're back into it. And this time we're getting to turn the corner. And we're getting underneath. And we're forcing them to stay home. We shot the ball quite well with this team. So late in games, depending on how well we were shooting it, teams decided to stay home. We got a little bit easier drives, I think, with that sort of stuff. So as you can see, it just kind of split into that situation there. So let's talk a little bit about defense. 2 seconds, I'll just get this a bit higher. So I think in terms of, we talk about kills, which is 3 stops in a row and clutch moments. They're kind of new phrase I kind of adopted recently. One of my assistants, Niall Berry, gave us the clutch moments situation. He doesn't agree with me using it this way, but I like the phrase for what we're trying to do in terms of when we're giving up too many defensive scores, when we really need that major stop, and we call it that clutch moment is a new thing that we'll be talking about. But in terms of our closeouts, I just put some images there just to kind of fill it up a little bit. But in terms of our closeouts, there's a couple of things that we want to make sure. One, we don't want to get ourselves in a domino situation. We're trying to get that offensively. We don't want to give that away defensively. So we want to make our closeouts short. So that means our on-ball defense, which we talked about in the last point there. So we want to make sure that our closeouts are short. We want to take away middle penetration as much as we possibly can. That's not always going to be the case, but we need to know how we're going to react to middle penetration if we do end up giving it away. Our first step recovery is huge. So on a closeout and the offensive player puts the ball on the floor, our first step on that closeout, to me, is the most difficult skill, offensively or defensively. With the way the game has gone, the first step recovery is so important. And we practice it a lot. We don't always get it right because it's so hard to do. But I think it's very important that you emphasize the first step recovery, which then leads to the next one, stop in 2. So if our first step recovery is good, we want to be in a position where we can stop the offense in 2 dribbles that we're not needing help with to stop us from being put in a domino situation, which I think is massive in terms of that situation. Huge for us. So you're going to see a couple of ones here. Some good. This one's a little bit longer. You're going to see 2 situations. We're in the middle penetration. We switch. So Dara's here now. He's after defending in 2. Dave Lehan is on the ball now, and he's got to defend in 2. So 1, 2, and we end up getting a position where we get a steal and a run out. Owen Conley here, defending 2. Now everybody's able to stay at home. So I'm going back in this one because Dara gets caught underneath the screen, but we follow the rule, stop in 2. So when we get here, we get caught. He gets beat middle, but he's getting back to defending 2 to create a contested look. We get the rebound from it. Here we're in zone. We're defending in 2. Ball gets back out, gets reversed. And now Keane, number 6, he's defending in 2. So now you may not agree with the outcome of this, but we're getting the situation here. Now Owen is a little bit too deep here. Dara had it covered. Owen's a bit too deep. CJ is a really, really, really good shooter. So that's not something that we would have wanted to give up, but we end up getting it somewhat affecting the rhythm of the shot. He missed it. We get the rebound. We're 1 versus 2. And Owen decides that he wants to pull up and hit a 3, and we make it. So that was a great outcome, but not the most desirable way of doing it, but worked out well in that game. So now we are recovery. And I think in your first step recovery on a closeout, we use what we call a catch-up step. So when we get beat, abandon sliding. I mean, sliding at this level, if you're focusing on the old-fashioned step slide, you're going to lose a lot of games. It's not really where we're at the moment. So we need to be able to defend it. And sometimes it's about crossing those feet, turning the hips, getting back in front and sprinting. And we call that a catch-up step. You do flybys, not something that I would have previously done, but it's something I'm considering now in terms of shooters, make them put the ball on the floor. Where's your help coming from? Peel switches, things like that. So that's why I put that in there. Where's your help coming from? So on your flybys, one of the things that, our young guys really struggle with is on a closeout, forcing. So they're more concerned about getting there rather than actually getting there to force them if they put the ball on the floor where we want them to go. And that's something where you need to really emphasize where your help is coming from so they can really focus on, yes, I'm closing out, I'm forcing to the end line, or I'm forcing it back to the point pipe and things like that. How are you affecting the rhythm of the shooter? Listen to a podcast 2 days ago. It's not enough anymore to contest. So I would have always been about contesting shots. And so good shooters in Europe right now, and so good shooters anywhere really, that it's not about contesting anymore, because the smallest of margins are getting that shot off and they're comfortable getting shots off being contested. The phrase now is, how are we affecting the rhythm of the shot that they are not comfortable shooting that shot? So it's affecting the rhythm. This one here, so when we make them put the ball on the floor, I spoke about earlier about being heels outside the lane. We're not always going to get there, but when we emphasize it, you can see us really working on getting there. Apologies. So we're here now. Just a couple of these here. So on the wing here, so we're in help. Number 4 is in help. He's pointed out where his guy is going. He's in the help situation. Heels outside the lane. And now we're in a situation where we're bad reach by Roy and we give up an uncontested look, which isn't what we're looking for. We're talking about heels. It doesn't matter where it's coming from, post, mid-post, wing. We want the heels coming. So you see number 6, Ian Thom, he gets it. Now we're in a situation where we can get a semi-contested look. And here again, so we're defending the post here, albeit mismatched. This is a very, very young team playing senior. James Hannigan here, he's behind. His brother is on the ball. He gets beat too easily. He's in the wrong angle. So now we get attack here. So we're switching here. James will switch to get the heels outside the lane. He gets away with a foul, in my opinion, but we make the most of it, and then we get the rebound. So he switches heels outside the lane, and now David gets the rebound, outlet to Keane, and now Keane is gone. And that goes back to what we're trying to talk about a while ago in terms of missed layups lead to putting the defense in vulnerability. So if you shoot and it's a missed layup, I personally believe you're vulnerable. And our players are sick to death of me saying missed layups aren't just missed layups. It inevitably leads to a foul or a layup on the other end. And then you're talking about your recovery. Are you a switching team? How do you switch? Are you switching over the top? Are you switching under the bottom? Then you're talking about formations. So here on this video, you can see that in this situation, we're in the free throw. We've put nobody into the free throw. So we're already set now in our formation. It's number 7, I think. Yeah, so that's Tiernan Howe, good free throw shooter. So whenever we've got really good free throw shooters, I tend to not put anybody in there, and we'll just set up our press. So even off of a missed free throw, we're treating it as a dead ball. So right now we're in our 1-2-2 press. We've got 5 guards on the floor, and we're actually down in this situation. No, we're actually up by 3. It says 60-57, and they've got bigs on the floor. So I felt at that particular time that 4 or 5 guards would put us in a situation. Obviously, James here, number 9, he can play a 3-5. So that helped us massively. So are we trapping with man-to-man? Formations, are we in a 2-3 zone? In the last seminar, I was asked, do I allow threes in open transition? I'm very comfortable with it. when you've got good shooters. You see here, Shane here, he stunts. He then comes back to 13. He baits the passer to try and get to here. Dara's angle here. We get a deflection. Now we're getting a run out. So we spoke about those three. He's after getting dejected. We're now gone. Look at where Gary will go. Look at where our forwards will go. And we're gone. We've got a 4v3. They give up the open three. Gary's on balance. He's in rhythm and he's uncontested. I'm okay with that shot. So our pressing, our 1-3-1, we spoke about that in the last presentation. We showed some clips on that. Again, utilizing. I've come to believe that to be a successful 1-3-1 team, I think you need to have massive length. I think you need to have long guy on top, long wings. I'm prepared to put smaller guys in the middle, maybe smaller or slower guys in the middle because you've got someone behind. But that guy at the back needs to be athletic and mobile, a good closeout guy and detracting. So we try and put our length on the wings in the top. That sometimes might mean putting one of we'll always put our 5 in the middle essentially, but I'm okay if that's smaller. But even our 4 will go on top. We put Leroy Odiahi there last year, who's 6'8". We've put James Kinnair there. We've put loads of guys that are 6'6", 6'7" above in that top spot to not allow an easy skip pass over and things like that. So that's something that we will do. You're pressing then again, what formation you win from a dead ball and a live ball. We try and teach pressing in both scenarios. We're not always the longest. We're not always the most physically strong. We don't have the biggest of guards at times. So for me, the more that we teach playing defense up the floor, the more that we can affect even off of missed shots or whatever we need to do. So we need to treat that like that. In our man-to-man pressing, you can see here, we've just scored. This is one of our senior teams with Neptune. This was 2 years ago. Again, we got 5 guards. We were in big trouble at that time. They've got their forwards on 6'8", 6'7", and right now we're only 5'9", 6 foot, 6 foot, just under 6 foot and 6'3". So we're really small. We decided to go flat out man to man. We didn't trap in this scenario because we felt they were too long and pass over us, but we just contained. We slowed it down. We're in good positions. Enric again, you see him stunting and recovering. Dave is closing out. You see Enric jump and Dave gets on the weak side. Now, here we go again. We're gone. Dave is getting into jail. You'd see number 9. We look for the replay, not there, and there we go. So we're transitioning all the time. We don't look to get into schemes as much as I spoke about schemes in the last slide. We do try and flow into our stuff as much as we possibly can with a few automatics. I'm a big believer, and I think that you have to have automatics and allow them see the game. Some people will just let them transition or move where they need to and based on where the other player are. I think a combination of both is a good balance. That's just for me. And go. So with the closeouts, recovery, and formation, it then creates a tempo that we want to play at. So again, this is where your debate comes in. The speed at which you want to play at, are you, like we said in the last game, are you an 80 points plus team or are you a 60 points plus team? That will create your tempo and what way you want to play the game. Are you a numbers or a spots person? So in numbers, we're a numbers transition team, or 4s and 5s are on the pipeline and in jail, or 2s and 3s are in the corner and our 1 brings it up. That's a numbers team. A spots team, you might still run the same spots, but it doesn't matter who goes to those spots. So that's the numbers versus spots. Some teams actually don't want a rim runner. So are you a rim runner team or are you not a rim runner team? Are you just getting to the long corners, maybe the leg getting into the rim? I don't know. So again, they're the debates that you want to have and how you want to run your team. Dead ball situations, your free throws, your violations, how you want to set your team up. For us with free throws, I try and press off and miss and make. It's nothing that people haven't seen, so I'm not saying it's a secret or anything. That's just what we do. As I said, it's based on our size. Have I had big teams in the past where we haven't done that? Yes, so, but it's been very rare. Deflections and steals. How quick do you want to run off of a deflection and steal? Are you a pure scheme team where you're just constantly running schemes and schemes and schemes and schemes? Or are you a team that has a balance? Or are you a team that runs no schemes, it's only flow? It's only flow that you run with certain actions and things like that. So all of those things need to be discussed off your deflections and steals. Our last slide. So continuous transition, D to O and O to D. And this is where we spoke about a while ago, and I was that type of player myself. Not a very good player, but I was very quick at getting forward, but I was very slow at getting back. And you know, they're the sort of things that you kind of need to have a look at in terms of the balance of your team and what you're doing. So when you're going defense to offense, you know, like we just spoke about a while ago, what you're doing off your deflections and your steals, what you're doing off of your trapping. So we will trap in zones, and then we'd have our rotations out of that trapping if we get beat off of it. We generally don't stay in a zone off of a trap. It's very hard to do that, and we don't practice enough to get that right, to stay in it. Disruption off of your out of bounds. And we put an awful lot of emphasis on scoring from out of bounds. We probably don't put enough emphasis of disrupting from out of bounds, but it's something that we look to do. So I'm just going to show a small clip here on loose balls and long rebounds, and you can see us getting into our T formation out of these. There's only 2 or 3 clips on this one. So again, we're out of position. It's a loose ball rebound. We win it, and now all of a sudden we are in the ascendancy. They gamble, and then we're putting them on their heels, and we're trailing back. Again, we're getting a closeout. We got we're stopping 2 by tearing on in the zone. Paul stops in the middle. We get a decent enough closeout, not great, but we're gone now. So again, we're putting them on their heels. We're attacking the deep slot, and when we attack the deep slot, everybody helps in, and we're getting an open look. So off of this one again, you're going to see heels outside the lane. James comes a little bit late. They win the loose ball, they throw it out, and now look at what's happening again. Our guys are gone. And again, Paul's attacking that deep slot. And now again, Mark Harper, who was a bit of a gunner, and Davey Han was looking for the 3 on the weak side. So that's how we run, and we really try and put teams in their heels in running situations and attacking those deep slots. Again, I think this is a big one. And we spoke about missed layups a while ago, and we're going to show here in terms of making layups and how it can affect it becoming a dead ball for us to control how we're coming back the floor. So I think when you think of transitioning up and down the floor, rather than just calling it fast breaking, off of dead balls and off of live balls is a great way to have a look at it, in my opinion. So we'll see here off of made free throws how it stops the play and it becomes a dead ball scenario. So here again, and you can see it, we throw it back into a Spurs cut. Defense is scrambling, bad closeout, opens up the lane. Again, youth basketball can sometimes make it look worse than what it actually is. You saw a bit of a weak side stagger here. Again, we pro stop, we're balanced. And because we're balanced, we can now control the dead ball situation. See some really good defense by Sanmi here. Again, a missed layup. Now they're very vulnerable because of that situation. So their heads are turning, they're scrambling. And now we see the space open up because of a screen away, a boomerang, and then it's a dead ball. So now we're able to control what we can do defensively from a free throw situation. I think they're important. So we really emphasize again how layups, making and missing, can have a massive effect on the game. And we're just going to talk in just the last couple of seconds in terms of this. This is one actually, Tobin Anderson from a D2 school. I was listened to him a few days ago on Basketball Immersion, and he said they're a pressing team as well. And it was very interesting in terms of how he spoke about the runs that he's looking for in the game. So I'm actually stealing this from Tobin. This isn't my thing. He said he's not looking for a massive 10-0 or 18-0 run at once in the game. They're looking for 3 6-0 runs in a game. So when you're a tempo team, you're looking for those 6-0 runs. So it just kind of, he just felt that it kind of killed the tempo of the game. And that was just added in 10 minutes before we came on air. So then you're talking about offense and defense, your ball security and your turnovers and your assists. And I think, for me, again, another healthy debate for us to have is your turnover situations. If they're going to happen, which ones do you want? So again, we spoke a lot throughout this now about controlling the dead ball situations in terms of getting back to the floor. For me, I want my teams to be brave and make aggressive decisions. And with that, that probably means that if it's going to be a turnover, it's going to be an off-balance situation. So we can control that by the ball going out of bounds. So now it's a dead ball. So we just forget that. We now move into our press and we're gone again. So for me, I would much rather dead ball turnovers and live ones. I think everybody would feel the same. And then assists obviously create dead ball situations as well. So that's what we're looking at: live versus dead turnovers to allow us to dictate what we want to do. And then your absolutes, and that's where we got back to a while ago from the first slide in terms of what we're looking to do in transition. For me, you must have some absolutes, because there's going to be mismatches when you miss a layup or you miss a shot or you give a live turnover or things like that. There's going to be mismatches as you transition back to floor. So we must then know how to reassess into our matchups. Do we switch? Do we front the post and not switch? Do we do all those things? Do we go to zone on a live turnover? And that way then we're all just sprinting the spots, and there's no decisions to be made on what we're trying to do. So that's another healthy debate that we can have. But for us, if we're in man-to-man, first person back, we need the hoop position covered. That's an absolute that we want to have happen. The second thing, the ball must be guarded to slow it down to allow the other three players to get into positions. Never come off the sideline. So if I'm on the sideline and my guy is on the sideline and the ball is getting beat down the middle, we never want to come off the sideline to get that, because that's a kick out, and now we're scrambling. They're in dominoes, and we're in big, big trouble with long closeouts instead of short closeouts, like we spoke about a while ago. And then the last guy, where does he come? There's always a last person on the floor. And if he knows where he needs to go or she needs to go, then we know exactly how we can guard the ball side with the first four players, which is huge as well. And then, what do we want to do in mismatches? So if the first guy down the floor or first defender back to the floor into the hoop position is your point guard, and their five comes down and pins them right in jail, what are we doing? Are we fronting the post? Are we half fronting? Do we call a switch immediately? What are we doing? And that's something that you do for your teams, but they're the kind of 5 scenarios that we're looking to try and control when we're out of control, that we're vulnerable in those situations. So that's kind of like your transitioning both ways that we're just finishing up on there. So my apologies, I kind of just ran up to all that. So my apologies on that, Zach.
No, yeah, it was fantastic, Coach. You did totally fine on time. We're all good. We do have a couple questions, though, if you have a couple minutes for that. So first question, and this is going back to offense. When your rim runner hits jail, do you get him opening up before spacing out?
So in the last couple of years, everything evolves as you go along. So, a number of years ago, in 2013, we had the 2 slots. That's the way we ran our offense. After that tournament, I kind of started going into the T formation. So one of the things that we speak about is that when you're in transition, know your percentage of attack. So are you a 50-50 in the post-up? Are you an 80-20? Are you 100-0? So that will determine how quick we pop out. Ideally, in the 50-50, we don't want to battle. It just stops the dominoes effect. So in the 50-50, we call it the 2-second rule. You know if you're open, and if you're not open, get out and leave us get into a 5-out scenario and get into that. If it's an 80-20, hold it. We find you. We get the, like we did with James in that situation in our up scenario, and he got the foul. So we get something out of that. So again, it determines on how much of a matchup percentage-wise that we're going to win, whether we hold it or pop it.
The next question says, can you go into a little more detail explaining what dominoes are?
So dominoes, let me see, do I have? So dominoes is basically, it's become a global word, I guess, from Ross McMahon's in the last 6 months, I guess. So we're not adopting it now, we've stolen it from Ross. So basically it's where we call it opening the gate. So every time that the defender opens their gate, you got an advantage, you kick it, another advantage. It's continuous penetrating kick where you've got control of the offense, defense is scrambling, and they just say the dominoes are falling, each one is falling, and eventually you get an uncontested shot, yeah.
Gotcha. And then another question says, what recommendations do you have for a big that can handle the ball really well in terms of starting the break and I guess taking it? Do you have any, strategies for that? For you,
so,
a big who can.
So it's 20 hours.
So I guess we allow our forwards. So you saw Rap making that one-handed pass a while ago. Rap as a 4. He's transitioning into a 3, and he'll be a very good 3 too. But we allow our forwards like James Kinnear, Sammy, we have no problem. But if you're in that 4 or 5 spot, instead of attacking the deep slots, you stay on your line. So in transition, they stay on their pipeline. That way, then the guards coming down, they know where they are. The point guard trailing, he's on his slot lines, but the forwards are not crossing over to guards, whether they're dribbling or not dribbling. They stay on that pipeline, and we certainly encourage them, if they're good enough to handle it, off a rebound turn, stay on your pipeline, and get down the gut. Yeah.
That makes sense. Well, Coach, pretty quick and easy Q&A section today. But listen, we just want to thank you again so much for taking the time out and doing a second presentation. That was great.
All good. It's great. No, it's been great talking to you guys. So thanks very much for having me. It kind of, I think these presentations help us as coaches get better as well, because we've really got to think about how we're going to present the information, and we may come up with things that we've actually never thought of before, like a couple of things in this presentation. So it's nice to kind of help us get better to talk about these sort of things as well. So it's been great. Thanks a million.
Absolutely. And did you have any contact info you wanted to share with everyone again?
Sure. Same as always. Have we got? I don't know. My Twitter is @PaulTKelleher. My email is cptk24@gmail.com.
There we go. All right, Coach. Thanks again so much, and stay safe out there. All right.
Thanks a million. Appreciate it, Zach. Thanks for having me.